Acolyte Episode 3 is a multifaceted German Scheiser video where Star Wars fans sit in a cuck chair and get crapped on. Or maybe the Acolyte is nothing more than feminist necrophiliacs digging up and defiling the corpse of a franchise Disney shareholders paid $4 billion to get for the boys. You typically don't spend this sort of capital to berate and insult the very people who generated tens of billions in revenue over decades of fandom before Disney. But what's truly curious is the sense I get that there is far more celebration by some of making those very same fans sad or angry than the quality of the show itself, because there simply is none. The Acolyte is the culmination of angry feminists in charge of Lucasfilm since 2012, projecting their own self-loathing and colonizing Star Wars to punish men. The entire lesbian witch colony is basically a self-insert for the Lucasfilm story group. I can even totally believe the women crafting and running this show stood in the writer's room and acted out that entire orgy ceremony. I'm sure they congratulated themselves on their seething vaginal energy, because this episode would really stick it to MAGA. But all we could do, as the fans, was laugh uncontrollably. Even after nearly a decade of Disney Star Wars trash fires, it still confounds me that this show was actually approved as is for publication. It's obvious that the co-chairs of Walt Disney Company Studios, Dana Walden and Alex Bergman, are incapable of discerning what quality control actually means. Either that, or not even they have any control over what was obvious bilge sputtering out from the San Francisco rectum called Lucasfilm, which is clearly befitting of that city. Never before in my life have I witnessed a $200 million bowel movement, but by God, I have now.
Renegade Online.
We have arrived.
It's just like Alan Ng said. This is going to be worse than the Last Jedi.
I was going to ask you that question, Endymion. So I was going to ask you. So did Alan's prediction live up to your expectations? So yeah.
I would say mostly yes. This has single-handedly ruined and retroactively made the original films worse due to the existence of what we know now. That's the best way I can put it. Anakin's not the chosen one, blah, blah, blah. We'll get into it, but yes. Yeah, it's pretty bad, all things considered, but I'll let everyone else give their thoughts too.
Yeah, let's go around the table and just get initial quick thoughts on everybody, the episode as a whole, your guttural reaction to it. Joe?
Yeah, I watched this last night, and I remember physically cringing the whole time from, we didn't even get to the point where, it starts to break down Star Wars as we know it, talking about the threads, undoing what we know about Anakin being the only, the chosen one. We now have Force babies that are twins, kind of making things not special anymore. The whole thing was cringe. The dialogue was cringe. From beginning to end, I'm just wondering where they spent that money. The CGI is terrible. It's just awful to experience.
Yeah, that was one of the big things, is where did the money go? We're definitely going to talk about that, because that's something that I was hitting on this week, comparing this show to other similar scaled productions in terms of allocated budget. I mean, we're talking Stranger Things. We're talking House of the Dragon. Putting aside things like Rings of Power for a moment, because that's in a different goofball league. But just kind of sticking with companies that have, at least for the last decade, been making major production budget type things. But yeah, we'll get around to that. Michelle, Natalie, go on.
Well, yeah, it's really bad. And that would be my summary of this: that the Jedi are bad and the witches are misunderstood.
And is witches in Star Wars a thing that I'm not aware of? Is that
Yeah, the Night Sisters. Kind of, if you think of Darth Maul, that's actually in the. I can't remember if it was in the Clone Wars or Rebels where that was fleshed out.
That was Clone Wars. We
Yeah,
saw
Clone
him
Wars,
in the
yeah.
expanded universe a long time ago, but
Yeah,
they've taken it and they've run with it.
They're also
Sisters
in the
of-
Jedi games too.
Yeah.
But these are not
Yep.
the Night Sisters.
No, these are
No,
No, it's
they're
a
not.
different sect. It's a
But
different coven.
similar.
It's a different
concept.
coven.
And I
Yeah.
did find it interesting, and we can talk about this more later. I did find it interesting that Jodie Turner Smith, the leader of the Witch Coven, her wife or whatever is the same species apparently as Maul, just visually. It just jumped off the page. And I'm like, well, is that going to wind up being like Darth Maul's grandmother or something like that? Are we going to go down that? I mean, look, I'm just, they're changing everything else. They're basically digging into things that they want to dig into to try to change everything that led up to what George Lucas created so they can fundamentally change Star Wars. I mean, this
I have a
is
question,
where it's
though.
going, but yeah.
Because Anasea, that's Jodie Turner Smith, Mother Anasea, I guess they called her.
Yep.
So she was the one that created the twins, and then she had the kids be carried in the womb of her wife, whose name is Coral. That's the Darth Maul looking lady.
Right.
And yet, if it's both of their DNAs combined, the daughters don't have any horns or anything. I
There's
noticed
no
that. That was a
DNA,
very
man.
bizarre thing.
I don't
That's
think
You know,
that
you noticed
they're.
that?
I don't think they've actually implied that their DNA was meshed together. I think that's why she said I carried them versus I created them. She might have just been, kind of like in the sense of when two people
Like
of
a
the same
surrogate
sex,
mother?
Yeah,
So
surrogate mother.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's
That
the
was weird
impression
also.
I got. But then that's made the comment in the video that I made this morning. I'm like, well, let's see. Babies and a woman, and the Force was used to impregnate her. Well, I guess Kathy screwed up and made the Force a dude. Because I don't know how else to go down that road. They, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they didn't mean to do that. But that's the first thing I thought of was, so the Force is a guy.
No, you're right. You're
So-
right, technically.
Yeah,
Right,
I mean,
because the
I'm sure
Force
they didn't
impregnates
intend it that
Anakin's
way.
mom.
Well, and when the Force impregnates Anakin's mom, it's by the hand of a man named Palpatine, Darth Sidious. So, but I mean, this one was deliberate to where it's like, well, now we're going to deliberately have women making babies together with the Force, and now it's just a thing, right? One guy did it. Tenebris couldn't figure it out. Darth Plagueis couldn't figure it out. Sidious killed him. At least I'm trying to remember the book how it went down. X-Wing, you probably remember.
Plagueis, yeah, he kills Tenebris.
And Sidious kills Plagueis.
I'm sorry, Plagueis kills. I'm sorry, Palpatine kills
Yeah.
Plagueis.
Sidious kills Plagueis before Plagueis can figure out how to create life from it. He was never successful. And then Sidious kills him, who is Emperor Palpatine. And then he, according to everything we knew up to this point, was the first and only Force user that had ever managed to use the dark side powers to generate artificial life. But I guess...
I think it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
This is awesome. I'm stoked. For me personally, lesbian headcase making the show was the best thing that we could have ever done for Star Wars.
I
It's
agree.
the best thing we could do because I think this is a serious linchpin moment in Star Wars history where we see it fall so far away from what it used to be and have someone take such liberties with the lore where the crazy part is she thinks she didn't do anything all that crazy, but you literally retcon the prequels. You retcon the original trilogy. You take the most important aspect of Star Wars, that the Force creates Anakin because it hates what Plagueis is doing. He's imbalancing the Force. He's trying to create life. He's doing Jurassic Park. He's playing God. Not good, right? And so the
He's
Force
John
makes
Hammond.
Anakin.
Yeah.
And that's the special part, right? He's the chosen one. And she's like, nah, what? My Ebon Bay lesbian's been doing that shit back on the planet for like years. We're making twins. We're making, we got it. Yeah, it's wild to me.
Well, and what's further interesting is like in the case of Anakin, like you see, okay, well, the Force created this kid. He goes on to be one of the most powerful Jedi of all time, and ultimately does fulfill the prophecy and bring balance to the Force. But with these two twins, they're not all that special. Like the one washed out of the Jedi Academy. She didn't even make it through. Like she was a Jedi Academy dropout.
And also, did anybody notice that to be such identical adults, they were not identical children at all?
No, they were not.
Just a little detail there.
Yeah,
These are
I
two
mean,
sisters, though. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought they were twin sisters.
they were
Yeah,
yeah,
they're
they were
twins.
twins.
They're definitely identical as adults.
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
We
they're
had the same
they're-
actress, right?
Look, just to make it clear to everybody, even after the immense hilarity, including from Eric Kane at Forbes magazine, who immediately went to work last night and took Disney to the woodshed for this episode in one of the biggest financial publications out there in Forbes, calling Star Wars the worst thing that Disney has ever made, the worst thing that Star Wars has ever made. And we actually had some footage today of that event, along with the Disney PR team trying to tamp down the terrible reaction to the show. Okay, something didn't load right. I'm sorry. That one, the wrong somehow
Wait,
the
play
wrong
the
thing
second
loaded.
part of that. That's like the best thing I've seen all week, man.
Apparently, when the editor pumped out the second video, it grabbed the wrong section of the edit. I'm gonna have to redo that, but we'll get back to that one. I promise. I screwed up. But any case, all right. So I there was a number of tweets. I just want to go through these real quick, and then we can start kind of going through some of the stuff in this episode because this was priceless. This guy
God, yeah.
posted this under my video, and I'm like, man, it's getting rough out there. I don't even know if I want to read this on YouTube, but Disney has a habit of walking face first into stereotypes all the time with when they do stuff, and this was one of them. I'll let everybody read that. Make of that what you will, but Disney did it.
Well, it's like Tiana's Bayou and then this right after. It's just like they pick their foot out of the dog poop and then step in the eggshells. Like, what do you want?
That's pretty much it, and that's the worst part of it is that I really don't understand how. I don't understand much about Disney. I do want to mention this. I guess we can talk about this when we get to this point. Master Tobin, of course, represents the audience in Star Wars, why his character is there, because now we know the true reason for his he saw episode 3. So starting with that, and just for everybody's own edification, Gary posted this last night, and look who responded to it.
Oh,
Elon
wow.
Musk, oh, wow.
That's the crazy part is like we're seeing people that are not in this space. Big names. They're not buying this shit. They're not buying it.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.